Hey, I am Robby Bear here with my co-host Jeremy Carroll for the We Who Dad, We Salute You. It is a podcast all about dadding and all the experiences that we have to deal with each and every day. And today we have some interesting things to talk to you about what is wrong with society today. It's been, Christmas season, holiday season, which has been fun. You know, we've been working from home during that time, working remote and just doing, getting to hang out with my kids and stuff, which is amazing. And so we, read a lot to our kids. And one of the series that we read is called Ranger's Apprentice. Now, there are like 14 of them, so we've only read like 5. So if like the sixth one, if someone reading this episode thinks it's like the worst, we're sorry. We're not recommending the whole series, but we have read a bunch of them that have been really good. But the thing is that, so it's basically like, it's like a kid's version of Lord of the Rings kind of deal. You know, there's a knight, there's a ranger, someone who can kind of like is stealth and super powerful with a bow, and then there's a princess, and there's a girl who's a diplomat. So it's kind of fun for both girls and guys. It takes place in the medieval times. It's kind of fantastical, but it's not scary. You know what I mean? And so it's just been kind of a fun series. But so we're reading that, and the thing is that my son William, who's 6, he got so excited, so he built himself this little armor out of just like tree bark. Nice. And it looks so cute. I mean, he literally just looks like a penguin. It does not look intimidating. It looks just like he's a little redhead. It's like, it's literally the cutest thing ever. Yeah. So him and his brother, Charlie, are sword fighting on our yard, and they're just like having fun, bopping each other, sword fighting. And the girls have slingshots that they're, bopping the boys and stuff. And everyone's having a great time. So like this old lady, walks by our yard, and she's like, starts grumbling at them and being like, oh, you can't do this and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm sure that my kids, just knowing my kids, like, I'm sure they didn't respond perfectly. Like, I'm sure, like, we're working on it. I want them to be amazing kids of character. You know what I mean? But like, I'm sure that they sassed her back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, but they're not like rude about it.
Yeah, I'm sure that they were like, hey, we can play on our own yard, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And so instead of the woman like coming to talk to us, which we would have appreciated and loved to talk to her and anything like that,
responsible thing. Yeah.
She instead went and wrote on like Facebook or something anonymously about a family of children that are just battling and blah 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 and using slingshots and unsupervised in their own yard and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, my wife was like, what? Kids have to be supervised in their own yard now?
Oh my
like,
gosh.
Is this what's wrong with society today? Like, is this what's wrong with society today? Like, why? Like,
the nanny states everywhere now.
Like, you have to supervise your kids in their own yard. It's like, the point is, like, they're just having fun. Like, we used to do that.
They need to be locked up in their bedrooms with an iPad.
Right. Like,
nothing.
Our kids don't do, like, screen stuff. So, like, they're just out there, like, playing and bopping.
Being kids.
And it's like, I don't know. It's, like, such an oddity now. I think it's because it's, like, such a shock in a neighborhood to see kids outside anymore.
Yeah.
Because
horrible.
Most kids are just, like, streaming stuff or doing whatever. But it's just, like, I don't know. It was just such a weird experience where it's just like, one, like, I think the two problems are like, one, why didn't she come talk to us? Like, why didn't she come say like, hey, like, your kids shouldn't be battling, and then they sassed me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And two is like, what is with society now that like, we don't let kids just be kids? Like, we are so unfamiliar. In California, the majority of adults are single, which means like we're not like, if you compare that to like Utah, majority of adults are married with kids,
Right.
And it's like, we live in an area where like they just don't even understand kids anymore.
Yeah,
There's a lack of context of understanding of children anymore. And I think that's a sadness because really what is Elon Musk says this, but what is a more hopeful thing than having children? It's saying hey, I believe in the future. And then the second thing is the kids are the ones who are going to fund that older woman's Social Security and their thing. The kids are the ones who are going to be able to make, they're the ones who,
they're the future.
That's literally, the issue things like China's having now where, a third of their population is over 60-something years old or whatever. You need children. Or Japan, whole communities in Japan are disappearing because of it.
It blows my mind, though, because you have 4 kids, which isn't outrageous. It's not insane or anything. Your kids are on your own property.
Yeah.
So there's this idea that your own property is not your own safe space.
Right. It's your castle.
Yeah. The woman doesn't come talk to you as the parent.
Yeah.
She thinks she knows better than you as a parent. It's and then she goes and shames you on the internet.
I know. It's just such a weird thing, and then all of the other comments on there were so bad.
Right. Because they're only getting one half of the story.
And they're just saying the most horrible things. And you're just guys, you don't know.
Yeah.
And, we decided not to comment on the internet because it just felt like it would be unwise and put fire. But actually our neighbor commented and was hey, these kids are awesome and it's working out and there's no problem.
That's awesome.
They're figuring it out, because the truth is that we would have been I want to teach my kids to be great kids of character. And if they did sass the woman, I would love to have them walk over and just say each of them say, hey, I am sorry. Yeah. I did the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Because I want to teach them how to interact with adults. I want to teach them how to be great kids,
Totally.
Honorable people. But I also want them to be able to be kids too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want them to be able to play and bop and build. And I mean, there's nothing intimidating about William's suit. It is literally the cutest thing in the world. I don't know how you couldn't look at it and just smile. You know what I mean? It is just he looks like a little penguin in the thing.
But they weren't even doing anything. Kids I knew back in the day, I didn't do this, would throw eggs at cars driving by, or break someone's window on accident and then not tell anybody. It's not like they're doing anything
and the thing is that,
or anything.
Yeah, I mean they did have slingshots. I got to tell you that. So
right,
but the thing is that slingshots don't actually work because they made them themselves.
I was about to say, you see how far a 5-year-old can shoot a slingshot,
or a 3-4-year-old trying to do a little fake slingshot. They made it themselves, so it doesn't actually really
Those
work.
Are imaginary bolts shooting out of that thing.
It's imaginary, but to be fair, yes, I want my kids to be good kids. So I would have been happy to have my kids go over and say, if she would have come to us, we don't even know the woman's name. We just know she put anonymously on Facebook.
Yeah, it's probably Karen.
But it's
just kidding. I'm sorry.
We would have loved to just say hey, we're sorry. We didn't mean to do anything bad. We want to, but we went to the piano recital for Christmas that my kids were all in, and it's all families, you know what I mean? And one of the families had a baby and there was talking a lot, and so they, the person asked them to leave or whatever, but it's all of these people are homeschool families. We don't even care. Do you know what I mean? There was no need. Yeah, there was literally no need. But I think it's again the context of the person doesn't have without kids. It's hard to have context that this is just part of life. It's part of being. And I think that I remember for my mom's funeral, when she died, you guys had babies, we had babies, my brother had baby, we all had little kids there, and it was such a beautiful, powerful funeral. But I think my mom would have loved it.
Yeah,
because in the middle of it too, yes, there was squawking and other things, but it was fundamentally in the moment of yes, she is with Jesus in heaven. There was also new life. You know what I mean? There's still new life there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we've just kind of moved that. And in a way, because we're so wealthy and successful generation, I mean, America's the wealthiest country the world has ever known. And people are you can isolate yourself from uncomfort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's problematic.
And that was heightened over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
To an extreme where you don't even go outside without a mask on, or you don't even interact with other people anymore.
Yeah,
you don't have to talk to anyone for an entire day.
Right. The only way you're talking to people is on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which all of you are seeing this on. But it's like people have forgotten so much on like how to just.
We would love to talk with you all in person. But.
To like walk through life with people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like give people grace.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that we live in an age where like there's very little grace. Yeah. It's like maybe one of the more pharisaical, how do you say it?
If I knew the word you were looking for, I would tell you what it is.
It's more like a Pharisee age. It's like an age of Pharisee because the thing is that basically like people burn people to the ground without ever knowing them.
That's the ironic thing. You know, they act like it's so non-religious or atheistic, and then they're the most devout of the
I know. It's like the most intense, and it's like, guys, just give people grace. You know what I mean? Like, let's walk life. It's okay. Like, it's okay to walk life through bumpy things.
Especially parents.
Yes.
With kids. I mean, come on.
Like, you should be treating those people best human the game because they're the ones who are paying your bills in the future. And they're the future. Like, you want those kids. I'm not talking about, like, don't coddle them so that they're spoiled.
Right.
But treat them well. Like, give them grace.
It's also very telling that she didn't come to you as parents because... Yeah. That's like the procedure back in the day would be the parents like, hey, don't do this. And then they get disrespected by the kids. It's like, okay, now we're going to go talk to your parents. Yeah. You know, like that was a thing. And then that would strike fear into the kid. You know, like it was a thing. Yes. Like that was part of the procedure of learning respect for adults.
And then the other thing about part of the procedure is like the scale of what was like, oh, we're going to talk to your parents was so high. It was like you just threw a water balloon at our window and it broke it. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to go talk to your parents. It's like nowadays it's like you just looked at me wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
The sensitivity levels are
it's like you just touched my chair when I was
in your
flying
own yard.
on a plane. It was like, he's a child. Like, it's just like the level. You know, there was actually a fascinating article in the Atlantic Monthly that actually this is happening universally now. And it's happening among like just like retail and service workers. So like there is a story. It kind of bases the story around this woman who works so hard at Chipotle, who was like a manager or like a assistant manager at Chipotle, and she's like making someone's meal, and then like the person like is like, you didn't put enough rice, and then she ends up like throwing the food at the woman, you know, and the woman was like, oh well, I'll remake it, and she like remade it, and before the food throwing, and then the person just like threw food, and it was just like it's kind of like a tipping point example of like, hey, we live in a society where like people have forgot to be humans with each other anymore. You know what I mean?
The adults have forgotten how to be adults.
Yes, adults have forgotten how to be adults. And like the smallest defense is like the greatest defense now. Yeah. And it's like, this is the thing to destroy the world thing. And it's like, guys, chill out. Like the world, it keeps spinning. Yeah. You know, it's just not enough rice is okay. Yeah. You know, and like every issue is some issue that people are like a hill to die on. But I just think... I hope that changes, you know?
Yeah. Everything's rage bait, no matter what.
Everything is rage bait. Yeah. You know?
Maybe that's part of the internet has perpetuated that too, is like everything has to be so sensationalized.
Yeah, you're right.
When you go out into society, it's like, oh yeah, my latte's lukewarm. Yeah. What? Like, and you just read online that someone else had something that was too hot. Yeah. And they're flipping out, you know, and everyone in the comments supported them. So it's like, oh. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the cool thing is I do feel like this is all part of the ship that's passed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like there's a new renaissance, like there's a religious renaissance they say is coming.
Yeah, for sure.
There's like all these guys, like there's this, you know, Wes Huff is like PhD in theology and all this stuff. He's on Joe Rogan now. Wow. Like all these guys are just blowing up.
I love it.
And the trad mom trend, traditional like roles is like
I never heard that.
Hugely coming back, and now a bunch of families they said are adjusting to a single income, and they're figuring out how to make that work because they want traditional roles back.
Wow,
it's like
that's
a trending
cool.
thing.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so I just read that this morning, but I mean, it's so encouraging.
I think that
people want hope. You know?
Really, really interesting, and I do think that makes sense that the pendulum is swinging back because it's the same thing like with phones. Like I've started like. I used to be all embracing but I started to just use it very little now on like weekends or other things. And like the problem is that there's a lot of research. This is not like, I'm not just saying this personally, like that using your phone, even for intermittently throughout the day, like you become shorter with your kids, like you become more intense with other people. And it's like just removing that device, like the look, just even if you just jump in and out, like looking at it, like for a period of time, like it makes you less irritable, you know, less short, you know? And so maybe part of that is the fact that like, oh, we're walking along and like, you know, the screen time app can tell you like how many times you picked up your phone. It's like, I picked it up 126 times or something. And it's like, maybe if we just did it like, hey, we're just going to set aside actual time. Yeah. You know? And like, I've started in the morning, every morning I would look at my phone and look at stocks and write stuff that I had to do for the day and stuff like that on my phone. But now I've been trying this, and I mean, this is literally the first day of the year, so I've only done it two days. This is 2 days I've done it. I've tried to just write down, like just actual write stuff. Yeah. You know, and it actually is like very relaxing. I don't know why, even though it's the same thing. Like I'm still writing down things I got to do and like that. It's like, I don't know. It's like extremely relaxing for the brain compared to like me doing the same thing on like Apple Notes. Right. I don't know why. You open
Apple Notes and as you're writing your note, a little pop-up comes up.
Right.
And, says,
and then I look at that and then I see like, oh, AI is destroying this or like your business is too far behind. Or
you learn about the end of the world about 6 times over and then you finish your note.
Right. And so I don't know. It's actually been really kind of fun on that, and so we'll see how it goes. It's only 2 days in.
Well, my wife and I did no phones last weekend. It's awesome. Yeah. Like if you feel like everything's too much and everything's coming at you and you got all this stuff, put away the phone for a day and then reassess your whole situation, because actually you will shift your priorities a lot. Yeah. Even the next day you're kind of like, well, I don't need to be looking at that stuff, so I'm going to do this instead. Yeah. You're getting stuff done, and like it's therapy without it.
It is. I think it actually is a therapy. And the thing is that I actually think a lot of people are afraid about smartwatches, like making them more tied in. But I actually think the smartwatch makes me less tied in. And I've seen that with my wife too. Like my wife almost never uses her phone anymore since we got her smartwatch. Yeah. Just because like if you need to take a phone call, you can get it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But it doesn't distract you from anything else, you know?
And the screen's small enough, you're not glued to it.
Anything like 4 inches or below, like you use it less. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I think that's kind of a good New Year's thing. But you're right. I think it is changing. There's a sense of change, and that's kind of cool what you brought up about that. And like hopefully society is more loving and open towards kids, because it's pretty important. I mean, even Musk himself is trying to tell everyone to have more kids, you know, like if in order for that to happen, like people have to feel like it's welcoming everywhere. Totally. You know what I mean? Cause like in a way, like it's kind of like like people complain all the time, like, oh, when they walk into a restaurant, the kids are just on a device, but it's because if you think about it, like society is not accepting of those kids just bopping and jumping around or making noise. You know what I mean? Like those parents would have gotten weird eyes if they didn't put like a device in front of them, because it's like, oh, those kids are too loud or they're moving around too much. Yeah. But it's like, we have to be okay as society that it is okay for all of those things, for the kid to bop and squawk and make noise and stand up on the back of the chair and look at you while you're eating, even though parents keep telling them not to. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's okay. You just smile at the cute little 2-year-old and you accept it, because like if we really like, you know, there's a bunch of things that went viral. I remember like last year or the year before or something. And it's like parents, when they go on a plane and they bring like a goodie bag for the people sitting around them. But it's like, what a sad state of society that the parent has to bring a goodie bag so that the other people feel okay with a little kid. Like, are we so distanced from children that like, because if you think about it, like the two really difficult points in life where you have to care for someone, love someone, like work out of your way, like outside of a medical condition like my mom, who had it for like 26 years, where you do have to love and care someone even when they're young. The thing is it's like the elderly and the kids, and like both of those things in American society, like we have pushed away. Like
totally.
we've pushed the elderly to like some care facility home, and we've pushed like little kids like out of like it's not like seen but not heard. It's like people don't want to see them or hear them. You know what I mean? And I just think that like that has to change societally. If everybody, all these people make lip service of like, oh, we need more kids because it's scary for society. Like you have to make it better for kids, and it is okay for awkwardness. Yeah, we live in an age where like it's not accepting of awkwardness. It's like actually the fun irony of the world is like, as much as people claim like, oh, we're into diversity or whatever, it's like they're not. Like people don't accept. Like they don't like weirdness anymore. Like people have to be very rigidly the same. Yeah, it's like I love Hollywood. Like I mean, we feel called to the mission. We love talking to people in the space. Like my grandparents were famous actors. My dad made movies. Like just being in the space for a long time, and it's just like, the drama Hollywood type is a different type than most of society is even used to. Do you know what I mean? Like I love spending time with that type of person, but it's like a lot of society, it's not even acceptable anymore. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's a very much like acceptable now of like, hey, the person who's like not going to ruffle feathers, the person who's not going to like, or like it's either the person who's going to like do nothing, but like rage bait online. You know what I mean? It's pretty much like the only thing that's like acceptable in society, It's like noble to go online and complain. That's the only place people complain. Yeah. But it's like, well, what happened to the person who was just like willing to confront you in person? Yeah. Like a man. Yeah. Adults not being adults anymore. Now they slink around and go behind and it's weird. It's like, sad. What happened to the thing of like, hey, if you have a problem with someone, just go talk with them. You know what I mean? Not in like some horrible way, but just like, because like you're never going to say the horrible things you would say online that you said to a person. I think. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like you're never going to say that. Now like, I feel like that's a social skill that's been lost, like how to effectively communicate conflict, I guess, or resolve conflict in person. And I think that as a dad, like that's what I want to teach my kids. I want to teach them how to resolve conflict in person, and I want to teach them how to be able to deal with tough things and not be afraid about it and not like hide behind something in it. Right. I think that's a big thing I want to do as a dad. And I think the other thing as a dad, like, my mom would have always said, like, just be who you are. You know what I mean? Like, great, people deal with it. Like they got to deal with it themselves. You know what I mean? As long as you're like honoring God and you're living rightly, you know what I mean? Like just it's okay. Like our kids are going to be kids and they're going to bop and do stuff and deal with it. You know what I mean? And the thing now, if they do something wrong, we're going to have them say they're sorry and all that stuff. But like we want them to play, and build stuff and do crazy stuff. Like another thing they were saying is like, oh, on that post was like, oh, we saw another group of kids were riding their bikes without helmets or something. And it's like in their property and blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys, like I want my kids to come up with a crazy box car and race it down the hill. Yeah. Like you want people to come, like we want them to be innovators and entrepreneurs and like do fun, crazy things. Like the frontiers spirit, that made America great, So I think the hope for this year is just like, I want to teach my kids how to be good at that. Yeah. And I think it's, and to try to break the mold of society of just saying, hey, look, we love families, and I got 4 kids and I wish I could have had more kids, and it's like, we need to break the barrier on that, Yeah. Thanks for listening to the We Who Dad Salute You podcast. This has been Robby Bear and Jeremy Carroll. Consider subscribing on whatever platform you're listening or watching this on, and join the millions of families that are part of the Movieguide family. And we'll see you next time.
You must. Whoa. We're not comfortable with profanity in our house, so we're gonna filter it all out with VidAngel.
You heard her! No more foul talk!
Don't skip the fight, though.
Sign up at vidangel.com to start filtering today.